Let's give you the markets update now, and it looks like the bourse will need to brace for a rough session today after tensions between Russia and Ukraine have intensified, sending already jittery global markets into a tailspin. Gary Booysen, portfolio manager at Rand Swiss, joining us now to talk us through how the JSE is performing in early trade. Gary, good morning to you. Let's start with how the markets have opened this morning.
Thanks for having me on the program. Markets definitely on the back foot after the moves by Vladimir Putin last night. I think everyone a little bit concerned about what's going on, and we're seeing the all-share index down just over 0.5% at this stage. The resource index is still flat, so we're not seeing too much pain coming through the resi, but that's really because of the rise that we're seeing in gold. So Goldfields and Anglo Gold leading the upside. Industrial index under pressure and financial index under pressure, both down over 1%. So it's really the resources that are helping to save us. We're seeing a little bit of that risk-off appetite also feeding into the local currency. So we've seen the rand against the dollar starting to weaken out to around 15.20. This is just as investors are heading towards safe haven assets. I suppose on the commodity front, we're seeing, obviously, with the concerns around the Ukraine and Russia and what it means for Vladimir Putin to move into the separatist regions as they've sent troops in. That's just putting pressure on energy prices as well. So we're seeing Brent crude now touching highs above $97 a barrel. So we're getting ever closer to that $100 a barrel mark.
Yeah, let's talk about South Africa's leading business indicator. It is out. Talk us through the numbers you have seen and what that data measures specifically.
So the leading business indicator, this is a composite of a lot of different activities. So it measures everything from building plans to passenger vehicles to commodity prices. It even has a component that stock prices, real money supply, volume of orders. So it gives us a good sense of what is essentially happening in the underlying economy. Looking at the indicator, it does tend to be volatile. So it's difficult to kind of read exactly what the numbers are predicting, and especially with the commodity price boom that we've seen, just over December. I mean, we've seen significant inflows for the South African Treasury around specific mining taxes, just with the elevated commodity prices. So I wouldn't read too much into the number. I think the key number to focus on today is going to be the South African unemployment number, which is coming out at 11:30.
Sure. Let's talk about the Finance Minister, Enoch Godongwana, expected to present a quote-unquote good news budget that should enable the government to reduce its borrowing, at least for this year. Will the country's tax collections save the day when he tables that speech tomorrow?
That's a good question. So, looking at it, whenever you look at tax collections, I mean, you've got to kind of talk about the Laffer curve. So the Laffer curve is essentially, the more you increase taxes, the more revenue you get up until a point, and then it starts to taper off. So obviously, if you have a 100% tax rate, your tax collections will essentially be zero because there will be no economic activity. Now, looking at South Africa, as I mentioned in the previous question, we have there's been a large, I suppose we had a large budget surplus in December, and that's really just on the back of the rise in commodity prices, which have been very, very positive for tax collections. At the same time, I think what everyone's going to be looking at is, yes, a good news budget, but it's really how how we adjust, kind of like the finer mechanics underneath in terms of managing tax collections. Because yes, it's great that commodity prices are high, but we can't just rely on higher commodity prices. There's got to be real changes within the administration. So most commentators are looking for, certainly the mention of a crackdown on corruption. There's all sorts of, there's a whole list of things that people are looking for around the budget. Now, from our point of view, I think, what's going to be absolutely key is, yes, just to see, how the funds are allocated, especially in terms of if we are going to see a little bit of relief in the corporate tax rate. And of course, it's always interesting to see, from an investment point of view, how, the idea of the Reg 28 products and all the different tax, at least kind of savings vehicles will work. Because in essence, what South Africa really has is a savings crisis more than anything else. So, any encouragement for South Africans to save more, that's really where I think the exciting parts of the budget are going to come.
Gary, let's conclude our conversation with some company news. Kumba Iron Ore publishing its results and, wait for it, a cash dividend for the year which ended 31 December 2021. How did they perform?
So it's absolutely, stellar performance out of Kumba. We're seeing this across, not just the kind of base metal businesses, but as I said, it's across the whole commodity complex. We obviously had Amplat's reported yesterday, but as you say, a 69% jump in Kumba's dividend, now paying out 103 Rand 20 per share that you hold. So, significant dividend coming out of Kumba. And this is just on the back of higher, again, it's the higher commodity prices. So increased steel production in many parts of the world has led to a greater demand for iron ore. Kumba's lump is a particularly high quality lump, although with consumers like China, a long way away, our transport costs do add up. But overall, I think also benefiting maybe from a little bit of infrastructure spending, as the pandemic rolled on, governments across the world, ramping up infrastructure spending programs, also being very, very positive for the stock. Paying out the dividends, so kind of paying out the cash, which is, I think, a very positive thing for a lot of these mining companies, which seems to be the trend over the last six to 8 months. Now, historically, what happens is when you get higher commodity prices, the commodity companies try to sink new shafts, open new mines, and increase production dramatically. It seems this time around they're being a little bit more conservative. They're paying out the shareholders, which is absolutely wonderful. It is, however, keeping commodity prices a little bit higher. And it does look like the tailwinds that we're seeing for a company like Kumba are going to be here for at least the next couple of years. So a great set of results. Market did mark them down around 3%. It's down around 3.5% at the moment. But I think that's coming from the general pessimism around the global geopolitical situation.
Gary Booysen, thank you very much for your time. And that markets update, he is a portfolio manager at Rand Swiss.